Hi viewers and YouTubers, and welcome to this current reading of Earth predictions or Earth prophecies using the Psy Cards. Today is August the 15th and this reading will take us for about 10 days. Just going very briefly over last week's reading, we had the Father, Money, Destruction, Yes, Tree and Sun cards arrive. We have repeating patterns again this week, and it's no surprise to me that we do have these repeating patterns occurring so often now. If any of you are aware of or familiar with the time wave zero charts that were originally devised by Terence McKenna, you could go in and have a look at some of those and see if you can understand the patterns and how they work. And it shows that the year 2012 does have, most years do have repeating patterns. I mean, history literally does keep repeating itself. There's no surprise there. But the year 2012's repeating patterns are just imploding upon each other. They are so rapid. If you go by what the time zero wave charts show, so we can understand then why we're getting this perpetual mode of repeating patterns occurring. And one of the classic examples is within the last month we've had 3 mass murder shootings in America. We've had 4 typhoons hitting the Hong Kong and up through China area just back to back, day after day. That's bizarre. None of those events were occurring so rapidly in previous eras. So with that in mind, if we accept the fact, instead of trying to fight everything and trying to deny these things occur, if we accept the fact that things are changing and they're changing really rapidly, then we don't need to be in fear. We can just go with the flow and see where it's eventually going to take us, which is really pretty much the only outcome we've got. We had quite a lot of hits again with the cards last week. I haven't actually looked at all the annotations, but there were fires again, and there were that mass murder, or were there 2 last week? Gosh, they're occurring so quick I can't quite recall. Lots of typhoons, water issues, there were volcanoes that erupted. Oh, there was a strange UFO odd anomaly sighting down in Antarctica off the Neuromeyer station. So there were the meteorite display over the northern part of the globe, which showed quite a lot of meteorites or meteors passing by. There were lots of great connective issues again with the cards. Go back and have a look at last week's reading if you're interested. The other thing that I really did want to just touch on briefly, because I was so moved by it myself when I watched the closing ceremony of the 30th Olympiad Games the other night. I was just in awe of it. I was totally captured up in the beautiful feeling of connection, happiness, success, laughter and love. I felt that it was portrayed really, really well throughout the closing of that ceremony, and I hope a lot of you did get to see it because it was so well worth seeing. There were a lot of hidden messages played out in that, actually, or subtle messages that were quite spiritual in resonance, such as the pyramid that was built, which looked a little bit like a Mayan pyramid, the sun worship, there were fire elements, there were gods that were mentioned, there were water gods, there was the freedom song sung by George Michael, who's one of my all-time favourites, and the beautiful song that they played, Imagine, by the Beatles, sung by the John Lennon with the pictogram of him across the big stage. That is one of the truly most moving songs that there is. It's Imagine, the world without restriction, without religion, with freedom, that we all live as one in peace and harmony, and that's really what we're all heading. And we call this the era of awakening. And it's no small wonder that we call it awakening. It's purely because we're wakening up from being in a deep sleep, because we've been hidden for so long from the truths. We've been bound by shackles and belief systems. We're finally getting people stirring who go, no, I don't want to believe this falsity anymore. I can see that there's more to everything. So I found that a particularly wonderful closing ceremony for the Olympics, and I found quite a few beautiful spiritual messages coming across for the whole world to witness that, because certainly a lot of people, it's one of the biggest mass watched events globally, and it was a positive one. And also to all the doomsayers and naysayers out there who were predicting terrorist attacks and everything going wrong and mass horrendous events occurring, it didn't. Nothing bad came out of it at all. We're all still here happily surviving, and from it a certain amount of positive growth came out. So on to this week's cards without further ado. The first one there is the scales. I've made a few notes. We know what that's doing. It's been here for a couple of weeks now. It's got the justice issues again. Lo and behold, no surprise, we've got the balance versus unbalance. We've got tree issues again, and food issues, because when you look at it, those are crops or apples or something on the tree. So there's going to be more food issues. I still think of this card predominantly at the moment as Northern Hemisphere because it is summertime. So we've had that card a few times, the scales, when we get really big crime type mass impact events going on globally. So we'll just see how that plays out for this week. The second card, guys, is the home card. We haven't had that yet. I had to sit and think a little bit about this one. In it you can see there's a fire, a cat, food again, and it's inside a home. So I thought to myself immediately, well, home, does that mean closer to my home? Meaning Southern Hemisphere, or something closer to or around New Zealand. And the card, when you think about it, it is inside a house and it is a fire burning, so one would think it is winter time. And we are in winter here in the Southern Hemisphere. So I'm just wondering if there's something to do with houses or homes in and around the Southern Hemisphere, animals and food issues. I tend to think of food issues more at the moment with the crop related up in the Northern Hemisphere, but it could be flood related down here in the Southern Hemisphere at the moment, or some form of earth damage. The next card that came out was our wonderful old friend, the Libido. Well, he's been around a lot, hasn't he? See, this is where the repeating patterns keep coming in. So the Libido card is a powerful, hugely, one of the most powerful in the deck by my comparisons to things. So we have a huge energy release and a mass compassion event. We have water issues, which is the last time the Libido card was out, we had all those typhoons occurring. We can get floods. There can be water coming down from the skies. It can be water movement on the planet. So some form of huge energy release. That's what these animals are indicating. Powerful energy. Very really directed into a specific, which creates that huge burst of explosive energy from it. And also in that card, animals affected again. So the next card that came out, yet more of the repeating pattern, and sadly it's the destruction card, which I think is just about as potent as the Libido. So with the destruction, we think of older parts of the globe primarily because of the type of buildings that we have in it, those very old architectural type buildings, and the clothes that people are wearing, which take us up through that whole Europe, Middle Eastern feel. The destruction card, it says it all. We're talking war, death, damage, destruction to buildings, people, fires, something possibly coming again from the sky, falling, or energy issues as well. It may be grid energy issues. I know we had India lost power to 620 million people across 28 states a couple of weeks ago. Now that was a totally bizarre situation. I personally do not believe the excuse that they had used too much of their power up each state. That's a little bit odd. So we'll just have to keep our eyes on what the destruction card is all about this week. There's plenty of war going on. We can see that around the globe. We don't seem to learn our lessons. We just keep fighting. The last card out, the tree card. We talk of fires again with that, earth issues, family issues again because of the family tree thing. So our families affected some way or another, affected legally, which is that legal card at the beginning. I get the feel we're crossing into the southern hemisphere again with this card because it's a spring like leaves on the tree, and we're coming into spring down here in the southern hemisphere. So there's a couple of messages in the reading that are directing themselves a little bit in the southern hemisphere. Could be a wonder volcanic type stuff, food or tree related. I haven't focused too deeply on what the messages are. I kind of was enjoying myself with the Olympic Games closing ceremony and got a bit lost up in that beautiful wave of love and connection around the planet. So that's all for this week, guys. Take care. I hope you've all had a good week. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And leave any comments. Feel free to add your bits and pieces to what you think these cards mean or what the readings are, or if you have any psychic or intuitive ideas about it all. Love hearing from you, and have a good week. Be safe and have some fun, everyone.